Aquarius, welcome to a special reading called the Green Light Portal reading, which is really an astrological time frame of good potential for new beginnings, starting new projects when we've had so many retrogrades in recent months. And this is from mid-November until late the end of January, when all the personal planets are direct. So I thought it would be interesting to do it from the astrological perspective, and that's what I'm doing. So, oops. Some of these cards I put back in the deck, right side up, so I'm just turning them over. Ah! I just laid down some cards and then they fell. So let me... Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. So I'm going to just pick these two cards for the kind of like the focus cards. And then there's 3 cards on each side that are supposed to indicate maybe the lessons learned in the past and things that'll maybe are up and coming in the future. Oh my goodness gracious, look at these major arcana cards that we've got up here. Okay. And I'm gonna pick all these cards. Oh god. You would think my hands are like so small that I can't pick these cards. Okay. Just because I didn't want them. So let's see. The heart of the matter, and this is looking at the past from the beginning of the year until mid-November, when we had a shutdown that was a global shutdown. And we also, so the aftermath of this, like, you know, how did that affect your work life? How did that affect your marriage or significant other, your relationship with a significant other, or somebody you were dating, or, you know, your family life? There are so many areas that were impacted just by that one event, not to mention there were other retrogrades too, and eclipses and all that good stuff. So the card I got to kind of sum everything up is the 7 of Swords. For some people, I got this card in the same place for another sign. I don't remember which one. This can be like coming to terms with somebody else's infidelity. Maybe because you were working before, you didn't really notice it until at the end finally, you know. I mean, when I say at the end, when everything was shut down and you were in close proximity 24/7 for a while, and you began to notice that their patterns were very sketchy. And so the workaday world allowed for cover for them to be living maybe a double life or something like that. However, there can be a totally different meaning of this card, which can simply be that you've been strategizing, that you've had an opportunity to kind of, you know, think, you know, what do I want? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? And perhaps just living in that, on the hamster wheel, as I like to call it, kept you from being able to really do such a thing. And you had a lot of free time to consider what you want to do. That's why the disruption with the 40-hour work week, we call it in the United States. I know that in Europe, they don't necessarily work 40 hours. They have a much more laid-back approach, I think, than American life. And even Mexico has, from what I saw, and statistically, has a higher average work life. So we'll just say North America has that mentality, kind of maybe the puritanical mentality of you have to work really hard. So the point being that you may be like kind of at a point where you want to break off into something else and you weren't quite sure. The Seven of Swords can simply mean that you were trying to get out gracefully from a situation without calling attention to yourself. So it could be like a personal relationship or in the business sense, but without getting that retaliation that sometimes occurs. Or any type of overbearing or unsatisfactory relationship. But there is a strong thing that makes me think of work related, because some of these cards, the Eight of Pentacles is about learning a trade, doing a good job in something. So sometimes that can indicate that the person is, retraining or getting some other type of training in a different field so that they can transition into that field. But maybe you did that kind of stealthily because you didn't want your boss to find out. Or maybe you were looking for, you were doing a good job so you would get a good recommendation. So you had this kind of like a strategy going on. You were strategizing behind the scenes, and with that in mind, not because you wanted to impress your boss, but you wanted a good recommendation or something like that. And then we have the Emperor, which can be like, this is a card connected to Aries, so if there's been any Aries people that have helped you out or what have you, but also the Emperor or Father can be personal feelings of self-control. So if you are somebody who has felt like you were under somebody else's thumb and you're just getting your life together, the Emperor is number 4 of the major arcana. We're in a 4 universal year, which is connected to Saturn and order, discipline, and things like that, foundations. And you might have felt like, you know what, I'm just going to, the Eight of Pentacles, I'm just going to make money. I know this is not something I really want, but I'm still going to do it for the time being. I'm just going to make money, do my thing, and save money and do what I got to do. And so the Emperor is about maybe getting your life in order altogether so that you are ready. When you're ready to make your move, you can do so, and you have the money to sustain yourself. And the Queen of Pentacles, so this is that home, the domestic goddess energy. But it can be if you're an Aquarian parent that you were enjoying being with your children. Queen is the mother, but to extend to males, just any kind of nurturing. And that was a pleasant surprise. Maybe you were kind of dreading it because you have been, if you were working outside of the home and your children were in school, that was like kind of your babysitter, and you didn't see your children, you weren't around them 24/7, and that wasn't something you were sure you would like. I remember when all of this first started and everything was shut down and people were just kind of going out. That was the only thing that they could do, was to, go. Even the parks were closed, but you could like cut through the park, and you couldn't congregate, but you could at least, go around the neighborhood. And I would see families walking together, riding their bikes, and it gave me such a great feeling. And I notice I don't see that anymore, because a lot of the parents are going back into the workplace, or they're just, now that things are open more, the children, even if they're still at home and they're doing school at home, they're going with their friends and they're not with their parents. But at the very beginning, they were with their parents. Oh yeah, probably also because you weren't supposed to be socializing with other people. But I thought that was really nice, and that's something that they're going to remember for the rest of their life, even if everything kind of goes back to how it was before, which I don't think it will in the emotional sense. I think that this is like, it's always going to be like a spiritual upgrade in some way. But with the Queen of Pentacles, a masculine sign like Aquarius can find the joys of being in the home. Gardening can be connected to the Queen of Pentacles. Any earth earthy activity, maybe cooking, feminine activities, and not seeing that as, and especially if you're an Aquarius woman, and you might think of yourself as you're I was going to say you're woke, but that term just like rubs me the wrong way. But I mean, that you're uh, a feminist and all this stuff, and you're not necessarily connected to cooking and all that, but that you learned. I remember flour, when everything first started, was one of the first things to go. So people were, cooking at home more and eating out less, or maybe not at all at the very beginning. And it might sound mundane in a reading like this, but there's a higher perspective. It's like letting go of the world and kind of tuning into yourself. And that's what it's funny, because some of this cards, I got a couple here that kind of speak to that for the future, actually. So I have here for that portal period the Seven of Cups, so that can indicate a lot of opportunities coming your way. Now, it is on the emotional level, so with the cups, this can indicate even relationships. And I'm trying to see here about personal. It's almost like with if the past position is something related to you and a relationship with a significant other changing, perhaps it changed because of, like I said, discovering somebody else's infidelity, you were working very hard and diligent, and that person may have seen themselves in the position of the parent. If you had a child or children together, but that was the reason you got married, that was the reason you moved in together, and it wasn't really because you were madly in love with each other, but you were just kind of going into these roles of father and mother. Because it's interesting that I got the Emperor and the Queen of Pentacles. The Emperor can be the father and the Queen the mother. And sometimes this is the kind of thing that happens. And it doesn't ultimately cement the relationship, even if the relationship survives, or that, when I say relationship, like a marriage type of thing, for 20 years. Eventually it dissolves because it was on shaky foundation. So with this card, this is a card of wishful thinking sometimes, but I want to look at it in a positive sense, because it is for this portal period. I see a lot of opportunities. The key is to know what is the one that is very flashy and might not be a good one. So we have the High Priestess, and this is about connecting with the higher self, going within, meditation, a passive card. It's like allowing things to kind of reveal themselves. So if the Seven of Cups is related to dating, because I was saying it seems like it's more on the emotional level than what it's really talking about, is this issue of not falling for somebody's appearance or the outer presentation, but getting to know them better. And because the High Priestess is a passive card, it's getting to know yourself as well, and what it is that you really want. We also have the Lover's card. I didn't even really pay attention to these when I was doling them out. And this is, this can be, for some that have been in a long-term relationship, very liberating, in the sense that you're like, I'm a kid in a candy store. I can have what I want. I don't have to follow any rules now because I'm not with that person anymore. But by the same token, who you get involved with can matter. I mean, you don't want to get involved with the wrong person. It's also about more depth, intimacy, looking for that in another person. It can be a choice. Maybe you're the one that was kind of outside of the marriage, going outside of the marriage, and you were with somebody that you were trying too hard to make them accept you or care about you, and they were very controlling, and they were using that. They knew that you were vulnerable to their indifference. And this is like, especially if you're an Aquarius who has a moon in a water sign, like Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, or a sign like Libra, where other people's opinion of you is paramount, or if you have inner plants in Pisces, you might have been especially vulnerable to this kind of rejection or controlling treatment, and sought comfort elsewhere, and now are having to make that hard decision about whether or not this is just an affair or is it the real deal. Then we have the Ten of Pentacles, and this is a great card for money. This is generational wealth. In terms of any kind of work situation, this really favors healing occupations, especially if it has a metaphysical component with the High Priestess. So it might be like with the Lover's card, you might feel like you're at this juncture in your life of like, should I just continue making this great money, maybe enjoying a sense of power with the Emperor? Maybe you're in a position where you tell other people what to do, having a nice house, Queen of Pentacles, or having a healing arts career. And yes, it can bring financial blessings, but perhaps right now you're not quite sure, is it the right thing to do? You might have this kind of like confusion of like what it is that you want to do. So that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.